Welcome to another edition of Capital Region Real Estate Today. I'm Jack Arnicki, and I'm joining once again veteran realtor Anthony Gucciardo, and we're going to be talking about hot sellers market, how long it's going to be lasting, and a host of other things. Good to see you again, Anthony.
Good to see you today, and thank you for hosting it in the rain today. A little cloudy, but we'll get through it.
Absolutely will. We're approaching the fall market. How was summer?
Summer of 2021 was an outstanding year. The COVID-fueled market continued into, obviously, the spring and summer of this year. We currently have about 75 houses under contract set to close by probably the end of October, early November. The next batch of buyers will want to close by Thanksgiving. So interest rates are still low. We sold about 150 homes this year with another 75 to close. So it's going to be another outstanding year. Buyers and sellers were very happy.
I saw a house on my street in a modest neighborhood that was listed for $209,900, and I just met the person who bought it a couple of days ago. He bought it for $222,000. Those
very
kinds
common,
of things.
very common.
Really?
$200,000 price range is hot between Selkirk and Lake George. If you can get something for $200,000. We've seen areas like Schenectady where houses were stuck in the 150, 170 range. They have now increased well into the twos. So if you're thinking of selling a home and you were, in that 180, 190 price range a few years ago, you're probably into the 200 range now. And it's very common to still see multiple offers. Even at the end of the summer, I was still getting 10 to 15 showings and often 3 or 4 offers, list price or above on my properties.
What percentage do you think of the homes that you've sold have actually gone above list?
I've sold about 100 homes this year. I would say our list price to sale price ratio is about 99.5%. So I would say a good 50 of those houses went above list price,
Wow.
half. It was a good number. And those that did not sell above list sold maybe at list or slightly below. There were very few cases of a house being listed for $299 that sold for $275, unless it was just overpriced from the beginning. And
Right.
I'm not one to take overpriced listings. I like to be realistic, and I always tell sellers, you're hiring me to provide you with a service. That service entails me expeditiously moving your property as quickly as possible while still getting you top dollar. So you don't want to be on the market for 5 months. It doesn't look good.
No, that it doesn't. Interest rates may be going up, may not. Jerome Powell at the conference in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, indicate the Fed would probably hold them steady for the rest of the year. How do you see that impacting the market?
With inflation so high, I do think they're going to maintain stability. I still think you're seeing 30-year fixed under 3%, well under 3%, and that allows a first-time home buyer to enter this market and buy something they may have not been able to afford a few years ago. I mean, if you look at a 1% difference over 30 years, it's a lot of money that buyer is saving. So I believe that well into 2022, we will still see interest rates be less than 3%, which is attractive for the real estate market or anyone looking to buy or sell.
It's amazing when I think that I bought my house decades ago. It was 7%, and I thought that was a cheap rate at the time.
When I started almost 20 years ago, I just celebrated my 19th year anniversary, but 20 years ago they were like 5 to 6.5, somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
And then we went through the mortgage crisis in '08, but this is the lowest I've ever seen them. And of course, way before my time, I've heard of interest rates being 15 and 20%, and houses only selling for $80 or $90,000, 25, 30 years ago. So I hope they're around to stay. I think for the foreseeable future, we'll see very aggressive rates.
After you have a transaction with the number of houses you've sold, you get feedback, positive, negative.
Yes.
How do you deal with the negative stuff?
Well, one of my clients this year, she was very happy. We sold her house for $10,000 above list price. My belief is she was in her mid to late 70s, and the only thing she had said to me at the end of the closing was she was thankful that I came to the closing and said, I wish I would have got to interact with you more face to face. And I think that what you're seeing, certain generations are okay with the texting and the FaceTime and the communication via the technology that we have access to, while the older generation does prefer more in-person contact. So as a real estate professional, I try and tailor the seller or buyer's needs, specifically speaking, what their generation is used to what I can offer them. So I've realized that with certain people, they do want to see you a little more. Even if you return their call quickly or answer your phone, they like to have a little more face-to-face contact.
So your approach for someone my age, 76, would be a little bit different than somebody 36.
Correct. You may not be keen on signing a contract via DocuSign. You may not like the electronic signature programs. And I do have sellers who prefer me to meet with them in person. I would say out of 10 sellers a month that I deal with, 8 of them are okay with DocuSign, and 1 or 2 of them want to come to the office or want me to come to the house. And real estate is customer service based. I mean,
Right.
if your realtor ever acts like they're doing you a favor, let me remind you there's 3,600 agents running around out there. I'm privileged and honored to help the clients that select me. So they're not doing me, or they're doing me a favor essentially. I'm not doing them a favor. They're giving me a shot, and I want to prove to them that I'm going to do the best job I can. And if that means going to their house or meeting them in person, you better believe I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Right now, Gucciardo Realty has about 150 signs
Yes.
plastered around the area. Plastered is probably not the right word, but
Yep.
they are around the area
In people's front lawns.
in people's front
Yes.
lawns. What do you do to bring, what do you bring to the table that a national firm does not?
Well, I started in the business 19 years ago. It was July of 2002, and no one really knew who I was, and I had to get my name out there, and that unfortunately rubbed not only some of my competitors the wrong way, but people in general don't always like to see success, and that's very unfortunate. They don't always like to be reminded of what you're doing, but in real estate, you have to keep your name out there.
Right.
So I think I've been consistent with branding, and I can confidently say that for the past 2 years, while a lot of realtors were just relying on the MLS and a free Zillow ad, I still spent $250,000 a year on advertising to make those homes reach as far away as I could to get that seller top dollar. I also bring experience to the table because a lot of I consider real estate brokerage firms essentially big landlords, and the more agents they have under that umbrella, the more rent they get each month. I'm a boutique firm. I have no aspirations to have 500 agents. I'm happy having less than 20. I can manage them, I can guide them, I can tell them what needs to be done. But I really feel that people are in this business now not because they have a passion like me, or not because at 15 years old they went to open houses and were very interested in real estate, but they're doing it because Hollywood has glamorized it, and they see guys driving nice cars or people flying on private planes or whatever the case may be, and they think that they're going to do it and it's easy, and it's not. And what happens is it creates a negative image of the real estate industry because they don't provide the service that needs to be provided to have an efficient and successful transaction.
Well, and they probably also see a hot housing market. They see
Yes.
prices going up and say, aha, quick
They want
buck.
to get paid in 30 days, absolutely.
Yeah. State of Florida, no attorneys at a closing, just
No.
the
Title.
title company. What?
We're going to be speaking, I'm going to be interviewing an attorney on the next segment of this show, but in Florida there is title, and there's no real estate attorneys. In fact, some of the builders won't even allow you to have an attorney, and I find that attorneys in New York State do bring a lot of value to the table. I think sometimes their presentation on behalf of their clients need to be a little critiqued just because it may appear to be a little essentially overbearing to the other side, where they feel that they're trying to manipulate the transaction or somehow find something wrong so they can renegotiate the purchase contract. So in New York, we do have an attorney who represents buyer and seller generally. You don't need an attorney, but it's highly recommended.
And I have heard cases where people have done the transaction without an attorney, and
That
it's
is
worked
correct.
fine.
It's worked fine, it does, yes.
In this market, homes, as we've mentioned, have been selling for record prices. What do you say to a seller who wants to start even higher than what you think? Is that a bad thing, or?
Generally speaking, I just interviewed for a listing in Latham. I told the seller $339. He heard $359 from another realtor. I did not know who the realtor was. I'm always okay starting higher. Sometimes I'm the broker who starts higher than the other brokers. I look at things like, in this market, buyers generally want as the least amount of work possible. So if your house is all done and ready to move in, those are the sellers that I feel stand the chance to get more than the house is worth because there's no work needed. When I look at certain houses that need work, such as a bathroom or a kitchen, or maybe it's a one-car garage versus a two, those are factors that play into the buyer's decision in what they will offer. So sometimes I'm a little more conservative with my pricing for that seller because I still want to sell the property, and I tell them, listen, if it's slightly underpriced, the market will tell you that because we will receive multiple offers. I would say 90% of the time I'm very accurate with pricing where it will sell at list, slightly above, and sometimes I'm a little on the high side just because that's what that seller wanted to do, and rather than lose the listing, we tried it, and ultimately we have to reduce the price a little.
In a market like this, though, with prices changing
Rising.
so quickly, rising so quickly, how do you actually make a determination on a price? What do you do?
You know, I get asked that all the time, especially from other realtors. I recently was hired by referred by another realtor because she does new construction, and she said, Anthony, I don't want to deal with resale. Can you help my clients? And I'm truly honored that other realtors refer me. And the bottom line is sometimes you have to look at a few things. The location of the house, how many other houses are for sale, what did the last 3 houses in the area go for, what does this house have that the others didn't that can possibly justify 10, 20, or maybe even 40 or 50,000 above. So it really depends on the house. I don't like to share all my details, but there are things that I've been doing this 19 years, so it's not my first sale, obviously. I have over 3,000 properties. I know what buyers are looking for, and I know how to get sellers top dollar.
So you got the feel for the thing.
I got the feel for the thing, and that sometimes just comes with experience.
Yeah.
And then there are other agents who are just nervous that they don't want to insult the seller, so they give a ridiculously high number, and then the seller may have interviewed 2 other agents who were very close, and they're like puzzled, like, well, why did two agents say 350 and another's 390? And I think what it is that agent didn't want to hurt their feelings and set a high price to get the listing. You don't want to be fooled.
Does it hurt your possibilities for sale by reducing the price after a while?
Absolutely not. I always tell sellers, when you adjust the price, it's showing people in the marketplace that you are in tune with the market conditions. Do not think that lowering the price is a bad thing. Now, if you lower the price 5 times, that may look a little suspicious. But if you start at $299 and 2 weeks later you're at $289 or $274.8, it's actually a good thing. It shows that, hey, we're paying attention, we didn't get an offer, we want to sell the house, this is the new price.
Okay. If we see another pandemic coming, like the Delta variant that we're dealing with now, what happens to the real estate market? Does it die?
We've seen a lot of people from metropolitan areas come up to the capital region because of the growth potential, the affordable housing, and the proximity between houses, the space available that, say, you don't get in Manhattan or parts of Brooklyn or Westchester or Boston. So people have migrated to this area because of what we have to offer. Now, we don't have the greatest weather. I think that's no secret. But I believe that the market will continue to go up. I mean, if we see another pandemic, which I hope we don't, but a lot of people profited from the pandemic, from their business, the housing market. There were numerous industries that, because of that COVID-19, that profited. And I think you will see another upswing in growth if that happens. Certain industries, maybe not the restaurant, maybe not hospitality and tourism, but real estate, I think, will continue to go up.
And you had mentioned in our last program that there were a lot of people who were spending more time at home, wanting to get out of an apartment and get into something with some space around. Does that dynamic still exist, or have those people?
People are putting a lot of, rather than go to a restaurant or a bar, and I'm not saying that people don't, they do, but a lot of times people are entertaining at their homes now. They have pools, they have hot tubs, they have activities that they've created at their property, which allows them to stay home and entertain, finished basements, theaters. I have a client who did a rock climbing room for his son. So there's a lot of different things that homes can offer today, and the builders are, have egress in basements now, so it's livable square footage. So yes, I do believe that there's a lot of growth potential in this area, and things will continue to improve.
And yet you still see a lot of apartments being built.
Yes, and people are renting them. I own several single-family homes because I'm in that market, and I have people who sell a $500,000 home and they need to rent. So all my rents are over $2,500 a month, and I have no vacancies. I mean, when I put something up for rent, it's rented within 2 or 3 weeks, and I've had some really great tenants, and the nice thing about my industry is I see how they live, so I'm essentially interviewing them without interviewing them because I'm seeing that, oh, their house is clean, their house smells great, I would love to rent to this person. So it works out for everyone involved.
With COVID the past couple of years, a lot of prices have really gone through the roof.
They have.
Indoor pools, or in-ground pools, not
In-ground.
indoor. Finished basements, just plywood in general is
Everything's risen.
Yep. Is that proving to be a problem or an opportunity?
It's if you have an in-ground pool and you have a finished basement, I believe that those are two of the biggest pluses that people are looking for in the $275,000 to $650,000 price range. People want pools because they're so expensive, they're hard to get. Obviously, with inflation, 20 years ago you could have got a nice pool for 20 grand. Now, a basic pool in a backyard with some concrete and lights, you're probably 65, 70,000.
Wow.
And if you get real fancy with landscaping, you're going to be well over 100,000. So in previous houses that I've sold that have had extensive, landscape and pool designs, some of those houses have gone close to 100,000 above list. And the reasoning for that buyer to make that price was because it would have taken them a year or two to replicate that backyard. So they just go ahead and pay over list to get the property they want.
And it's interesting because years ago the old wives' tale was a pool is a negative. That's going to cost you more money, so you're going to lose money in the sale.
Yeah, if you have like a small property that somebody's maybe downsizing to, like for example, a lot of people between the age of 65 and 75 want a 3-bedroom, 2-bath ranch. So an 18 by 40 in-ground pool with tons of oak trees around it is probably not a plus. But a colonial like I live in with an in-ground pool on an acre of land is a plus because it adds for activities that you can do at the house.
Okay. 2011, somebody paid $50,000 above list. Next year they lose their job. In the current market, is that person going to have to eat that extra? Or are they going to lose money on the house?
Depends on where the house is, but I've told all my buyers, if you're buying in this market, you are purchasing in an inflated market, okay? If you're paying $250, the house is probably really worth $225, $230. But if you don't pay, you don't get the house, so you lose out. So if you're thinking of moving in the next year or two, or you think there's some uncertainty with your job, you probably want to hold off on improving the house too much. I will do my best to get you back what you've paid and then some. But in the next year or two, if the market does cool down and someone paid substantially above, there is a chance that they could potentially lose money. If you're here for the next 3 years, as long as nothing crazy happens with our current leadership, I believe you will get your money back and then some.
I see your signs everywhere, as do most other people. Mentioned before, you have at least 150 on front lawns somewhere. Mm-hmm. What if somebody says, I'm not going to call him, he's too darn busy, he'd never be able to pay attention to me?
I have devoted the last 20 years of my life to building a brand and building a business where people want to work with us. And I think sometimes there's a misconception of, whether it be people think I'm arrogant or I have a big ego. And I think what you really should do is interview me and, look at my Google reviews, look at my Zillow reviews, and really see the type of person you want to work with. I can tell you confidently that I have a team of people in place that help me throughout the capital region. It's not just me. I always tell people, if you call me to sell your home, you're going to deal with me depending on the area you live in. I have certain people who specialize in multifamilies, certain people who specialize in rural estates. I primarily deal with the single-family residential between, Guilderland and Lake George. That's always been my forte. It's what I enjoy. I have 10 calls a week from people who want to sell commercial. We have a commercial person who assists with that as well. So I would say take half an hour out of your time, interview me, see if we're a good fit, and then we go from there. There's no obligation. I'm not a high-pressure guy. I'm not going to bug you every day. If I'm the right fit, I'd love to work with you.
I have seen your signs with your name all over the place, but I've also seen a couple of billboards with one of your associates.
Yes, I believe in marketing my agents as well. I think people have sort of gotten sick of seeing me over the years because, I'm out there and I put myself out there. I don't think there's anybody who watches this show that can say, oh, I see Anthony Gucciardo at this restaurant every night or this bar. I wouldn't say I'm a recluse person, but I'm pretty private and pretty quiet. The billboards and the advertising was strictly to get business. I have no interest in being recognized, although I appreciate it, and I'm certainly appreciate the support, but it was simply to get my name out there. A lot of people think it's ego, and I mean, I guess every salesperson has a little bit of an ego, but at the end of the day, if I was arrogant or a jerk, I wouldn't do the business that I do, especially consistently for 19 years. It wouldn't be the case.
Walk us through the process of somebody calling you and saying, yeah, I want to do business with you. What happens after that?
So generally speaking, if you're looking to sell your home, you give me a call. I come out to the house. I tell you what I think the property is worth. I discuss my marketing plan. I discuss the plan of action of what we'll do from the time you sign the paperwork to the time the photographer gets done to when it goes on the market. And I walk you through the entire process of what will happen. And as I say, my phone is always on. It's on 7 days a week. Even when I'm on vacation, I still take calls and facilitate and delegate. So you'll be, I think you should interview me, and then I can tell you exactly what the plan will be.
And is usually, if somebody calls you and it's going to go to one of your associates, does the associate come right at that point, or do you explain it?
Certain areas, just for a locational standpoint, I have agents who live near there.
Right.
So, if you call me in Dwaynesburg or Glenville or something, I may come, but it may be in your best interest to have my local agent there come. And at that point, I would make the introduction and get you signed up to get your home sold if that's what you wish to do.
I've seen a number of signs with just a for sale by owner recently. Is that a phenomenon of the hot market? What is
When
that?
I started nearly 20 years ago, for sale by owner was a big thing. Now so much people see the value that real estate agents, the right real estate agents bring to the table. And I think that for sale by owner has been a thing of the past. I haven't called a for sale by owner in probably a year or two, just because the people know that the realtors have the buyers and that we're getting multiple offers. For sale by owner to me is almost like, well, if I get the right offer, maybe I'll sell, but I don't want to commit contractually to an agent, but let me throw this sign out there and see what happens. They usually tend to be people who are not serious. That's my take on it.
And usually it's a much slower process, you think?
Much slower process. You also don't know. People think that, oh, they have a bank pre-approval letter from a bank in Kansas, and I'm like, oh, I have experience with that. That person 5 people got denied with that bank. So it's, again, let the professionals handle it.
Let's say you're a senior citizen. You want to sell, but have nowhere to go.
That's important. I work with a lot of senior citizens, again, between the age of like 70 and 80. Sometimes I met a 95-year-old woman in Troy a few weeks ago. She was watching this program. Wonderful, wonderful lady. I hope you're watching, Mary. She had me out to the house. The house is way too big. It's a beautiful Victorian. She's on the list to go somewhere, and she is nervous because she's been in that house like 60 years. And I told her, I didn't even bring a contract in the house with me. I simply went in, had my marketing, told her what I could do. I said, when you're ready, Mary, I hope you live another 20 years, whether it's this year or next year, let me know and I will help her. But it's a big decision.
Sure.
Generally speaking, they should have somewhere to go. If not, if someone hires me in September or October, I can generally get them a 1 to 4 month delay. So that gives us enough time to find them an apartment. If you're moving out of state, that's ideal because you're going to another market. Hopefully that's not as busy as here. So.
It kind of reminds me, I had a next door neighbor who went and had his car serviced, and the dealer said, I want your car.
Yeah, they want to buy everything.
And gave him a great offer, and he said, well, what have you got to sell me? And he goes, nothing.
Yep, nothing. There's no inventory.
No inventory.
I recently sold a car to a mortgage broker I know, and I didn't take much of a hit. It was like a year. I put like 5,000 miles on the car, and I think I got 3,000 or 4,000 less. That was it. So it was pretty good for a car.
Absolutely.
Those cars depreciate, but in this market, they're above list too.
Why is professionalism so important? And can you give us some recent examples?
I don't wear a suit every day. Obviously on TV, I try to dress according to the season, but I think I present myself professionally and I dress professionally. I recently had sellers in Loudonville. They hired me to sell their house. Wonderful people, and they're what I consider polished people. Their house is immaculate. They present themselves well, and they had another realtor who came to the house. I couldn't make the showing. It was with another buyer, and the realtor was essentially in sweatpants and flip-flops, and they were turned off by it because it was a $700,000 house. And I said, listen, I can't police the industry. I would like to see everyone dress appropriately. I try and never wear jeans on appointment. I always try and act like a real estate professional. And I will tell you that when I started in the industry 19 years ago, when I worked for Coldwell Banker, that office was very professional. They were always dressed nice. We weren't allowed to wear jeans. The industry in the last 10 years has changed, and it's become very average and very complacent. And if you want someone to provide that high level of service and present themselves and present your property well, you need to interview the person that presents themselves in that way who you feel comfortable with. But that's my opinion.
Right.
I know some people will say, oh, I'd hire a realtor in sweatpants. If that's who you are and that's who you're comfortable with, you have that right to do that. But generally speaking, my clientele expect us to project a professional image.
What do you want people to know about you that they may not know or may misunderstand about you?
I would say that I think people, again, the billboards, the persona, the misconception, people should get to know someone before forming an opinion. And that would be, I think I'm a very easy to deal with type of person. I'm a very hard worker. I have had a passion to do this for 19 years. I think it's no secret that real estate agents who are successful make a decent living. If I wanted to go on to another venture at this point, I could, but I truly enjoy what I do. I still wake up and love it, and I really have no plans to slow down. I really enjoy it.
Good. We've had a change in New York State. Got a new
Yeah.
governor.
I was hoping to list the mansion, but I didn't get the call.
That would have been a good
I
good
know,
get.
I know.
What's your opinion of Governor Cuomo's resignation? How do you see all of this
Well,
breakup?
first off, I want to say I was really embarrassed that I don't run around looking at people saying, I'm Italian, give me a hug. I think that was really mortifying to... I'm not someone who, obviously my name is Italian and I have dark hair, but I am not a touchy-feely person. I would never, I went through a bad breakup a few years ago, as a lot of people remember, and that was an isolated incident that was, exaggerated, and luckily everything got dismissed. But when I look at 12 women who had unfortunate experience with the leader of the state, I would never, ever put my hands on someone. I saw that picture in the New York Post with him grabbing someone's face that he didn't know. I rarely give I went to a closing yesterday. The guy gave me a hug. It's perfectly acceptable, but you have to know your boundaries,
Right.
and you have to know what's appropriate. And I can tell you, I've never had a client or a realtor tell me they felt uncomfortable, because you have to maintain a professionalism. When it's a matrimonial dispute like what I went through, that's different because there's passion and stuff involved.
Yeah.
But someone who's a governor should know better than touching people. I really hope, and again, I don't claim to be a Democrat or a Republican. I'm not going to talk politics, but I hope Kathy Hochul, I believe her name is, I hope she can really turn us around and lead us in the right direction.
30 seconds. Any final thoughts?
I want to thank the community for your continued support. Another outstanding year. You guys have been awesome. We thank you so much. If you're thinking about selling your home, even if you don't want to deal with me, I have great agents. I would love to help you. You can call anytime at 518-331-3785 or visit anthonygucciardo.com, and we would love to help you.
Anthony, great to see you again.
Great to see you again too, Jack. Thank you.
Wonderful to be here. Thank you all very much for watching. I'm Jack Arnicki. Have yourself a wonderful day.